this video, I'm going to explore the question, does AI lead to cognitive debt? And I'm just going to give my thoughts here. So the quintessential question here is should versus how. And my colleague astutely pointed this out. Most people use AI, in my opinion, for should you do something. That is bad because you've basically outsourced your critical thinking skills and your independence. The decisions should be made by yourself. What you use AI for is how. How do I execute this strategy? How would I do this, assuming I made this decision? And for me personally, having realized that has really shifted my productivity. And also, in my opinion, I feel like I'm actually operating on a higher cognitive level now, using more AI than when I didn't. And that's sort of antithetical to what the studies are saying, and we'll actually review a study by MIT, because those are showing, with data, they're showing that cognitive ability is decreasing with AI usage. So what we're going to explore here is so basically the two types of AI usage. One, that it leads to, in my opinion, you being more productive, working on a higher cognitive level, and the other way you could use it, which leads to your cognitive ability decreasing, and I guess, yeah, let's just get into it. Okay, so we'll start off with this study here by MIT. And this study came out, I think, maybe 2025, I'm not sure. I'll put a link in the description. It says, your brain on ChatGPT, accumulation of cognitive debt when using an AI assistant for essay writing tasks. So basically in the study, they got a group of around 50 people. They split them into 3 subgroups, an LLM group, a search engine group, and a brain-only group. And their task was to write an essay, okay? And what they did was when these people were writing an essay, they measured their cognitive engagement and cognitive load, okay? And what did the study find? Unsurprisingly, brain connectivity systematically scaled down with the amount of external support. Participants showed weaker neural connectivity and under-engagement of alpha and beta networks. Okay, what it basically said is that the people who used an LLM or AI model to write the essay used less of their brain than those who just had a pen and paper. And that makes a lot of sense. And I agree with that. And it goes on to say the pressing matter of a likely decrease in learning skills. This study shows that there is a pressing matter of a likely decrease in learning skills based on the results of our study. This is the first form of AI usage I alluded to at the top of the video, and that is for sort of like just outsourcing your work, right? Outsourcing your work, but not doing anything on top of that. So, and this here sort of relates to why, and I don't blame them, like teachers, professors, educators are anti-AI, because for them, their whole mode of work is just marking your essay, for example. So if a student just gets the AI to write the essay, what's the teacher gonna do? They're gonna complain and say like, you're becoming dumber, right? But here's the problem here. How many educators' job is strategy? Like, think about that. What percentage of people whose job it is to educate a class of students, job is strategy? I would say less than 1%, okay? Because that's not their role. So their only exposure to AI is basically automating the grunt work or automating redundant tasks. So they're only seeing one lens of it. But now we'll switch over to the other one which I want to focus on in this video, and that is about strategy, higher leverage plays, and being more productive, okay? So the other way you should be using AI, as I mentioned at the top, is how to do something, okay? And what's an example of this? So one of our students on our AI Startup Accelerator, they came to us with a fascinating idea, or a group of ideas. They wanted to do like a project based on sort of like just pure mathematics and modeling. And what we did in the first session was we didn't even there was no code written. All we did was we got a pen and paper, or an Apple pen, and we just brainstormed, mind map. And at the end of the session, we had a beautiful mind map, but the issue was, it was just a lot of qualitative data. And I found myself in the moment saying, okay, it's going to take us ages to sort through this qualitative data, because qualitative data is different to quantitative data. It's easy to sort quantitative data. Qualitative data is harder to sort because there's so many different underlying themes and trends in there, and it's just harder to categorize. So what did we use? We used the AI model to outsource or expedite something that would have taken us ages to do. So to sort it out, and basically we built a decision matrix. How does this feed into us doing a higher leverage or making a higher leverage play or being more strategic? Because when we formed the decision matrix, one of the key things we were able to achieve was that we distilled the mind map into sort of the 3 key project themes we could explore: fractals, chaos and complex systems, hyperbolic geometry and optimization, and material science / packing and topology. And then what I did was I said, hey, great, we've now distilled that massive mind map into the 3 core project themes we want to explore. Now, what we need to do is we need to converge on a project theme to develop further. So what did we do? We basically established a set of weighting criteria. And this is the high leverage play I'm talking about. What the AI model did was it gave us a decision weighting matrix, ranking with basically you have like criteria 1, 2, 3, projects 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up to 10, and there was a weighting on it, but we had to sense check it. And that's where you stop using AI and you start using your brain. This is what I'm talking about, operating on a higher cognitive level and being more productive. Instead of just taking for gospel, what the AI is saying, look at it, and then we had to critically evaluate the outputs and say, okay, does this weighting make sense for this criteria on this project theme? We had to use our knowledge of the real world to sense check, and then we actually prompted the AI and said, no, this doesn't make sense, we need to do this instead. Okay, now how does that, so as you can see, one, already operating on a higher cognitive level. Why? Because we're being more critical. Okay, we're spending less of our time doing boring stuff like clicking and dragging, copying and pasting, and focusing on higher level strategic plays. This is what the education system is missing. When the teachers bang on about you guys using AI in your essays with your college professors, it's because that's the only thing they've seen it for. They've never seen AI used for strategic decision making on project direction, critically evaluating outputs of the AI model and comparing it with our real world experience. Okay, next. How does this relate to being more productive? Because the key point of AI, and I noted this down, is that it expedites the decision-making process. Decisions are made sooner. What was the decision we made there? Within one session, we were able to go from nothing to a clear project theme and outcome that was data-driven. If we didn't use AI and we used like the old school conventional methods of doing a very long literature review that takes like a month to do and doing like intensive reading and whatnot, it would have taken us maybe 4 weeks to get to that same decision, right? Now, you can either, play into your ego and drag it out over 4 weeks, because I've noticed this as well speaking with some PhDs. They're sort of anti-AI. They feel like it's a right of honor or like a badge to wear and say, don't use it. You're just slowing down your work. You could be so much more productive if you knew how to use it. And this is just one example. Okay, there's so much more you could touch on here. So that's sort of my thoughts here. There wasn't really much structure here. However, I do agree with the article from MIT that it does lead to cognitive debt, and I would also layer on top of that the education system isn't showing you guys how to make higher leverage, more strategic plays. And that's why if everyone's just using it to write out their essay, then you're gonna get cognitive debt. But if you're showing people how to make higher leverage plays, then people are going to be more productive, and I would argue that cognitive ability would increase for our students on our accelerator. And I'm not being biased there. Okay, I'm just checking if there's anything else to say here. Yeah, the main thing here is that I'll do another video on basically, I think I'm going to wrap it up there, but I will say one thing. Working as a management consultant, strategy consultant, you work with a lot of qualitative data. And one of the amazing things of AI is that it just helps you sort through that so much quicker, okay? And yeah, I'll do another video breaking that down. However, please have a full read of the MIT study. It's fascinating. And follow the page for, or subscribe to the channel, and we'll put out more content like this. See you guys later.